Life is not fair. Day in and day out, we have to put up with so much bullshit. It drives me crazy, and sometimes I don't know what to do with myself. I feel like I just want to smash everything, you know? Guardians with anger management issues rejoice. The new Striker Titan is here to provide direction for your endless rage. The Code of the Missile is one of 3 new Titan subclasses, and it is the epitome of cool. It combines the in-your-face action that all Titan players love with the insane one-shot burst damage of a Voidwalker's Nova Bomb. And that's a very potent combination. There's a lot that goes into using the Code of the Missile properly, so it's time for an overview. Let's get started. The foundation of this subclass branch is the melee ability Ballistic Slam. While sprinting and airborne simultaneously, you can activate this ability to slam down on the ground, dealing arc damage to all nearby targets. This ability is very versatile, however there are some restrictions on how you can send your character flying and some rules surrounding its activation. Number 1, you need to be sprinting for about 2 seconds to ready Ballistic Slam, just like the other shoulder charge abilities. The main difference for this one is that it cannot be activated while you're on the ground. So, after sprinting for about 2 seconds, jump and press the melee button and proceed to turn your enemies into a bloody pulp. Number 2, Ballistic Slam can be aimed, however it always sends your character in a downward facing arc to your target. This means there's a limit to how far you can travel, and that limit is based largely on how much of a height advantage you can get over your destination. Pairing this ability with Catapult or High Lift will allow you to travel the farthest distances without the support of environment to jump off, but if you're not fond of those jump abilities, Stray Fork's fine too. Number 2, Ballistic Slam obeys Destiny's momentum system. If you're moving forward at top speed and attempt to Ballistic Slam directly behind you, your slam will send you down vertically regardless of where you aimed. Slams aimed to the left or right still have full directional control, but as soon as you try to do a 180, the game says no. So keep that in mind. Last but certainly not least, Ballistic Slam is a gateway drug. Once you unlock the Impact Conversion ability, enemies damaged with your slam grant bonus super energy. The amount gained isn't anything broken or out of control, but if you Titan smash large groups of enemies, you'll get a significant chunk of super energy. On that note, let's talk about the super. Thunder Crash is your super ability, and it's essentially Ballistic Slam on steroids. On activation, your Titan leaps into the air and starts flying like an intercontinental ballistic missile. While flying, you have a lot of directional control, however the longer you fly, the slower you move, and the less control you have. You deal damage to enemies that are around you on activation, and a fuck ton more when you finally hit your mark. After you impact the ground or a target, you leave behind an area of effect arc shockwave that damages enemies that survive. Most of the time, everything near the blast will be dead, but this is great for big bosses that don't get one-shot by the attack. If you're looking to deal maximum damage to a big boss, activate Thunder Crash right in their face for a burst of damage on activation, on impact, and from the shockwave that's left behind. The final ability for the Code of the Missile seems a bit underwhelming because after flying around and slamming everything from Mars to Mercury, everything seems underwhelming. But it's one of the most devastating abilities in this kit. Inertial Override gives your slide additional properties. Sliding over an ammo pickup reloads your currently equipped weapon and increases your weapon damage dealt for a short time. Just like with Ballistic Slam, there are a few rules that govern this ability, but they're very loose. Sliding over and picking up any ammo brick will reload your currently equipped weapon regardless of the type of ammo you just picked up. In other words, sliding over special or heavy ammo will still reload a primary weapon. Next, you can change weapons without losing the Inertial Override buff. So if you slide over a brick with your puny sidearm equipped, switch to your heavy weapon before firing for maximum destruction. Finally, your currently equipped weapon can have a full magazine and still apply the buff. The brick you slide over just needs to be picked up and ammo needs to be added to your reserves. Okay, now that was a lot of information, but there's a little bit more we have to cover. Destiny 2's subclasses have always benefited from optimization via mods and weapon selection, but with the addition of 2.0, the new weapon slot system and the armor perk system, there are a lot of things you can do to create a perfectly optimized build. The Code of the Missile will benefit very heavily from optimizations. The Insurmountable Skullfort exotic is a clear best in slot item for this subclass branch starting out. Melee ability kills reset your melee ability, and melee ability kills trigger health regeneration. If used correctly, you can aggressively chain melee ability kills together for a very consistent flow of super energy. If you're trying to branch away from the Skull Fort, the Syntheseps are also great. They buff your melee damage and super damage when surrounded by enemies, which happens all the time. Finally, the ACD-0 feedback fence is a solid choice as well. It gives you some extra mitigation in melee combat. However, if you want to get the most out of this subclass without the Skull Fort, you'll need a full set of melee cooldown reduction mods. Generating super energy with Ballistic Slam is where the true power of the Code of the Missile comes from, so anything that helps you get more slams out will see an increase to your power. With armor perks, you can be a bit more flexible, but in general, things that help you build more super energy consistently, like Ashes to Assets, is great. Also, perks that grant melee energy like Momentum Transfer and Outreach are great as well. For weapons, you can use whatever you want, but I enjoy dealing big bursts of damage after sliding over ammo bricks, so I try to always bring a rocket launcher, grenade launcher, or a shotgun with me. To wrap things up, the Code of the Missile works best when you're hyper-aggressive but intelligent. When you first unlock it, you'll want to use the Insurmountable Skull Fort exotic for the infinite ballistic slams. But once you get better equipment and melee cooldown reduction mods, you can branch out without hurting your damage output much. Also, if you're not using the Skull Fort, use the slam whenever it's off cooldown, but make sure you're aiming for large packs of enemies to get the most bang for your buck. If you are using the Skull Fort, you can literally slam every single enemy you come across. Finally, don't forget to slide over the bricks. The damage boost from Inertial Override is noticeable, especially with hard-hitting, easy-to-use special and heavy weapons like rocket launchers and shotguns. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some anger issues to work out in the Crucible. And there we go. The Code of the Missile subclass is incredibly exciting, and it is very difficult to put it down, but there are 2 other Titan subclasses for me to unlock and experiment with, and I'm very excited to try them out as well. With all of that said, we're going to wrap it up here by saying the name of the game is Destiny 2, the name of the channel is iBluairJgR. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what your Titan soundtrack is. What music do you put on when you're smashing things to pieces? For me, it's hard rock and metal. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.